unmute.
Thank you. Oh, perfect. So we'll stay away from that, Manny.
Well, we can mute it and we'll just mute.
Good morning, everyone. Joseph Maestas here, Public Regulation Commissioner for District 3.
Good morning.
Welcome to this workshop. Isaac, I think we're right at 9:30.
Looks that way.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call this workshop to order. This is a workshop to discuss the status of residential customer arrearages for small utilities and rural electric co-ops. And, as all of you know, we've been under an extended order regarding a moratorium on disconnections. And I think that, the order that we have on the books from February 3rd responded to your requests per a previous workshop that the PRC needs to get out from between you and your customers to start working with them on repayment plans. And so we believe that order did that. It gave you long-term certainty and provided certain protections to customers. But my latest bench request serves several purposes, and these are the objectives of the bench request, which is the scope of really this workshop. And it's to assess the status of transition periods leading to the expiration of the moratorium on disconnections. In this case, the moratorium on disconnections for small utilities and electric co-ops is May the 5th. We're also going to discuss identifying methods to increase enrollment in installment payment plans. Another objective of the bench request in today's workshop is to determine whether there is any need for changes to the PRC order dated February 3rd. Also to identify any actions utilities can take to protect vulnerable member customers. And then lastly, to discuss the status of unallocated utility assistance funds. We have several members of the public. The primary audience obviously is small utilities and rural electric co-ops, but during a part of the agenda, we'll be hearing from all of you, and we'll be hearing from a few members of the public that have signed up. Just a brief overview of the agenda. Our Associate General Counsel, Judy Amer, will give a summary of the public health order dated April 23rd. This is from the governor. Our PRC order dated February 3rd. The PRC order dated March 17th. My assistant, Mr. Jonas Armstrong, will provide a summary table of all your responses regarding the data that we requested concerning arrearages, number of accounts, any federal aid received, any state or federal aid received, and so on. Mr. Donnie Quintana, he is the director of the local government division with the Department of Finance and Administration. He is the lead individual on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. He'll be providing a brief update on that and discuss any potential additional federal aid that could be coming for utility assistance. Agenda item number 4, we'll be hearing comments from all of you, the small utilities and rural electric co-ops. The intent of that comment is to share anything else beyond what you've already provided in the way of the data that we requested concerning arrearages and possible disconnections, plus any recommendations that we solicited on any amendments to the order, and anything you can do in your own administrative procedures to assist vulnerable customers. Agenda item number 5 will be followed by just general comments from the public. And we will be hearing from a few investor-owned utilities who have signed up for this workshop. Obviously, the bench request was directed to small utilities and rural electric co-ops, but we'd like to hear from any investor-owned utility representatives under public comment. We'll round out the agenda to discuss small utilities plans for recovery of arrears, and Ms. Judy Amer will assist with that. I'll oversee the comment period myself. Keep in mind that public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And I realize there's multiple representatives from a single entity. If you can decide who will speak on behalf of that company, that would be great. So we can move this along when we get to comments from small utilities and rural electric co-ops. And then we're going to end just with a kind of questions, any lingering questions. And I'm going to just mention a few of the next steps that we might take from this workshop. So with that, and we have some commissioners. I don't know, Jonas, what commissioners do we have? Can you see who we have here? Just so I can recognize them. And just state that all my colleagues on the commission are very keenly interested to see how things are progressing in terms of how any state and federal aid for utility assistance is making its way to you all, to you utilities, and how that is factoring into working on appropriate installment plans or repayment plans, with your customers. So Jonas, do we have any commissioners that I could just recognize?
I don't see any commissioners on the list when I'm clicking through everybody's name square. So I think it's just you today. And I do see some commission staff. I know John Reynolds is in attendance. And also, of course, Judy Amer. Okay.
And before I hand it over to Judy, I just want to state that we will be making this available to the public. There's some data that was provided that is still questionable, and Jonas is going to address that when he presents his table on some of the numerical information that we requested. But we have every intention of making it public. We could file it or simply make it available. But this will be presented to the commission next week for potential action. So we'll see how this workshop goes and determine what action, if any, the commission may take. Have I missed anything, Jonas? Are we ready to hand it over to Judy? Judy, I think we're ready. Take it
Yes.
away.
Good morning, Commissioner and participants at this workshop. Thank you for attending. As Commissioner Maestas said, I'm just going to briefly go through the current public health order and the PRC current order that would be applicable under these circumstances. The governor's current order was issued on April 28th. It was effective on April 30th, and it remains in effect through May 28th, 2021. And it continues the red to green framework. And what that means is, depending on what your county is categorized, there are a variety of restrictions, red being the most restrictive, yellow a little less, green a little less, and turquoise is pretty close to very few restrictions. So I think that's fairly self-explanatory. It just continues the previous framework that the governor had. You will recall the February 3rd order that Commissioner Maestas was referring to in the beginning. And with respect to, and that was clarified on March 17th, in a March 17th order, because it appeared from certain information that the commission had received that there might have been a misunderstanding or miscommunication, or however you want to characterize it. The March 17th order clarified, well, first off, it incorporated by reference in its entirety all of the February 3rd order. And regarding, I'll just go to small water companies, small gas companies with less than 100 meters, and all rural electric cooperatives. Prior to May 4th, 2021, those entities were prohibited from discontinuing or disconnecting residential utility service for non-payment, and prohibited from mailing or hand delivering any disconnect notice that expressly states, implies, or otherwise communicates that the utility may or will disconnect prior to May 4th, 2021. Of course, there's a carve out for disconnections due to emergencies, safety reasons, or a request to disconnect from the residential customer themselves. And subsequent to that March 17th order, there was a March 31st order, which again relaxed some of the informational filings that needed to be made. Instead of requiring the utilities to actually file certain items, the utilities were required to simply retain communications or attempts at communications made between the utility and a customer who was disconnected, and to retain a summary of call notes. And the retained records would be available at the commission's request, and the records would be retained for 365 days beyond the expiration of the disconnection moratorium and transition period. Subsequent to the March 31st order, as Commissioner Maestas stated in his previous remarks, there was a bench request issued on April 19th, 2021. And I can go through what was requested, but I believe that Jonas is going to go through the bench request order. And I think that's all for now, so that we can proceed into the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Judy. And I don't know if you mentioned that, but the only authority the PRC has to mandate a moratorium on disconnections is if the governor's public health orders are still in effect. And I want to point out they're still in effect, as Judy mentioned, but we made a conscious decision to depart from the governor's public health orders because of the increasing and astounding debt that you're all carrying as a result of arrearages. And so I just wanted to point that out, that we're really trying to work with you all to work with your customers and get them on repayment plans. And so I just felt that was worth mentioning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonas. Jonas, my assistant, is going to present a table that summarizes at least the numeric data that we requested, but do mention what we requested before you present the data. Jonas, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you all for being in attendance and for providing the responses that you did. The bench request included primarily requests for data, and you see that here in the table. It asked for the total number of residential accounts, the number of residential accounts in arrears, and the amount of arrears on those accounts, the number of accounts in arrears and currently on an installment repayment plan, and the amount of those arrears, the residential accounts that are eligible for disconnection, and the amount of those arrears. Also, the number of accounts eligible for disconnection and on installment repayment plans, and the amounts for those accounts. Finally, we asked for installment plans extending beyond the minimum time period allowed by the February 3rd PRC order of November 15th, 2021. We also asked for any information on relief funds that small utilities had received to date. You can see that those have been broken down into LIHEAP and other assistance here on this table. The bench request also included some more written type responses or requested written type responses from utilities on recommendations to changes to the February 3rd order or improvements to utility policies to allow more time for relief funds to be dispersed. With that overview of what we asked for, I'll go ahead and walk through what we got back. And I hope this is large enough for everybody to see.
Can you expand it a bit, Jonas?
That's as large as it gets on my computer, but I can zoom in and go by section, I guess. So what we've got here is the total amounts in arrears. There are 243 residential accounts served by the utilities that responded to the bench request. 8.7% or 21,000 of those accounts are currently in arrears, totaling $7.5 million. The average arrears amount for those accounts is $354, but as you can see, there's a broad range of arrearage amounts from $107 on average with Raton Natural Gas up to $535 with Arrearages County Co-op. The number of accounts that are in arrears and currently on installment plans is 393. Those accounts total almost $15,000. The big point about being on installment plans is, as the February 3rd order notes, folks can't be disconnected as long as they're on and in compliance with an installment plan. That means a lot of accounts obviously are eligible for disconnection, over 15,500, with an average arrearage of $310. Just to emphasize those points, nearly all of the accounts, as you can tell, that are in arrears are not on installment plans. 98.2% of accounts are not on installment plans and could be eligible for disconnection after May 5th under the current orders. I would also just point out that 92 installment plans extend beyond the minimum deadline allowable by the PRC order. That's about 20% of installment plans right now. But obviously the installment plans are a very small amount of the accounts that are in arrears. Finally, sorry, go ahead. Did somebody have a?
Yes, I have a quick question. So I'm on an installment plan with El Paso Electric and with Zia Natural Gas. I'm currently paying $50 on each account, but with, I don't know if the Doñana Water Mutual Company is included in the graph that you're showing us, but I had called on Monday, I believe, and my bill, what I have accumulated and what's owed is $467. So I offered to pay the $467 because I mean, that's what I owe, that was my usage. But in penalties, disconnect notice, because every month they would issue a disconnect notice, even though they weren't disconnecting, which was $36.75 every month, beginning March of last year. So just in late fees, penalties, and disconnect notices or disconnect penalties accumulated, I owe $697. So my total bill is $1,298, and they will not waive them or anything. I did speak to the gas company, and they said they weren't charging late fees or penalties. El Paso Electric wasn't either, but the water company is not willing to waive them at all. They did send me a letter saying that I could make a payment arrangement for those $1,200, but that's on top of my monthly bill. And I mean, they won't waive the penalties and the late fees. And I'm willing to pay for something up front, you know, because that's what the stimulus check was for, was to catch up on bills. But, you know, just $1,200 because of late fees and penalties, I just thought was kind of, is there anything, any law or anything?
Sorry, the only response I have right now is PRC doesn't regulate that type of entity, a mutual domestic. And so we don't have information on them right now. But
Jonas, I would suggest that we
yes,
stick to the schedule, and I'd like to be able to hear from all of the members of the public, and I believe that this individual is one of the members of the public. That being said, there is a specific time on the agenda when we will be taking public comments. And so I would request that everyone try to be patient, let Jonas get through his presentation, and then we can try to stick to the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry about
thank you, Judy. Wait. Getting back to my table, as you can see over here, most of the relief funds received that we had reported on the bench request was from LIHEAP, about 2/3 of the total funds. The other funds here that we've put into other assistance include funding from local and county governments, nonprofits, and even fellow co-op members through funds co-ops have established for themselves. As Commissioner said, I did want to clarify a couple points before finalizing this and making it available to everybody. And I don't know if it's best to do that here or if it's best to follow up, but I did have a question for Southwest Electric Co-op on the amount eligible for disconnection. It seemed significantly higher than any of the other averages, and I wanted to confirm that before finalizing. Also, Jemez Mountain Electric Co-op had an interesting figure typed into their report, and I think a decimal point was missing because it was reported as $42,000, not $423. But I did want to clarify that. And if you all are on the call now, please just remember that, and I can reach out to you, or you can reach out to me to clarify that update if that's appropriate.
Jonas,
This
do you
is
want to
Michael
just?
Hastings.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
This is Michael Hastings at Jemez Mountains. We'll be glad to get with you after the call.
Appreciate it, Michael.
And Jonas, before you close this section of it, can you just summarize the number of responses from all the companies? Just highlight that.
Yes, we had pretty good response rate, and really do appreciate that. There were a couple of co-ops that are on PRC's company registry that we did not receive responses from, including Duncan Valley Co-op, Navapache Co-op, and Rio Grande Co-op. And there are also a number of water companies listed on PRC's directory that are not included in this table because they did not submit responses. I'm unclear at this point on whether or not they meet the definition of a small water company, which is the language in the order. So we did have a really high response rate, and big thanks to everybody for doing that on a tight timeline. I know the bench request only included about a week for responses. So getting that information in was really helpful.
Is that it, Jonas?
That is everything that I have. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for that, and color coding that so folks can get an idea how extensive the average arrearage is. But carrying a total debt of arrearage of $7.5 million, almost 16,000 accounts eligible for disconnection is pretty eye-opening. So with that, we're going to go on and hear from Mr. Donnie Quintana. As I mentioned before, Donnie is the director of the local government division with the Department of Finance Administration with the state of New Mexico, and he's going to give us a brief update on the emergency rental assistance program, and then present on, maybe give us a glimpse of additional federal funding for utility assistance that could follow the emergency rental assistance. So he's coming to you from Pecos, New Mexico. So Donnie Quintana, take it away. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Commissioner Maestas. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay? Great.
I hear you.
Well, good. Well, good morning to you all. And thank you, Commissioner Maestas and Mr. Jonas Armstrong for the invite. This morning, I really would just like to have a conversation, or at least a very informal converse to you all about the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and then, potential future federal funding. But I guess I'd like to begin by saying we all recognize the year 2020 was an extremely challenging year. That goes beyond being said. We had a health issue. We've also had an economic issue. We've had a lot of folks sacrifice financially. We've had a lot of loss of life and tragedy. So extremely difficult year in the year 2020. But just like with anything, there's always a new day, a new dawn arising, and a new opportunities. And that's really what I want to focus on today or this morning is the opportunities. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, when the winds blow, some people build walls, others build windmills. And what I'm going to propose today is that we build windmills. There is an excellent opportunity for us to work collectively together, collaborate and partner to benefit our constituents, your customers, your clients throughout New Mexico. So I applaud the fact that you're willing to come together to look at opportunities and, more importantly, solutions on how we can assist our fellow brothers and sisters out there. I think one can readily, easily identify any family member, neighbor, constituent, church-going member, whatever the case may be, of folks that really sacrificed as a result of the pandemic, either in the loss of employment, loss of hours, had to pay for funeral costs that they weren't prepared for, or whatever the endeavor may be. So a lot of folks have struggled. But, through the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, I can tell you in my 36 years of either military service, federal or state service, I've never seen the position where we have what I believe is enough funding to meet the need that exists out there. And I say that cautiously, but I truly believe that. When you consider the fact that the state of New Mexico received $160 million to assist renters with rent in arrears and utilities in arrears, I think that is pretty substantial. I do want to say that the state of New Mexico was one of 5 recipients that received the emergency rental assistance funds. The others are the city of Albuquerque, received $24 million in funding. And the state of New Mexico is proud to say that we have partnered with the city of Albuquerque on the administration and execution of the program. So anybody that lives within the geographical service area of Albuquerque applies through the state of New Mexico's program. And I will give you the address, the web address right now, and that is renthelpnm.org. Renthelpnm.org is where you're going to find a lot of information about this program, but just as important, you're going to find the digital application that we are asking folks to fill out to apply for the program. In addition to that, you will find various tabs for partners. We have toolkits out there where you can capitalize and maximize the flyers and brochures and insert them in your invoicing and so forth. And we can talk about that more in a minute. But renthelpnm.org is the URL that we are utilizing. We do have a 1-800 number that you can find on the at that website that gives you the access to our call center. But getting back to the folks that received an award throughout the state. So obviously the state of New Mexico, the city of Albuquerque, as well as Donna Ana County received their own award and have implemented and are executing their own program. We do have a link on our website to let folks know that if you live with respectively in Bernalillo County or Donna Ana County, the objective is for you to apply, make application for assistance through either one of those 2 counties. And we are collaborating and partnering with both those 2 counties to ensure no duplication in services. In addition, lastly is our pueblos and tribes received their own award for their own respective reservations. So if you provide any utility service to folks that are on tribal land. They do have a program with each one of their respective pueblos and tribes, with the exception of 5. I can't call them offhand, but one of them is Sandia, I believe Tesuque, Powake. And I think that's largely in regard to the fact that they are within certain jurisdictions. But nonetheless, those are the 5 entities that have received an award. And collectively, across the state, there's 200 million for this program, 200 million. So hearing your 7.5 million, it is alarming and disheartening to see that there's 7.5 million in arrears. But when the state is sitting on 200 million, I think that could be very easily met if we are willing to partner, if we are willing to identify the opportunities to assist your clients and your constituents, and do everything that we possibly can to ensure that anybody that is eligible for this program submits an award and participates in the program. The benefit of the program is, one, it eliminates the arrearage for those applicants that are qualify. And more importantly, it provides the resources and the funding to the utility providers and or landlords. The program is designed that the award, if the folks that apply are eligible and receive an award, the money goes directly to the utility provider and or landlord. So with that in mind, one of the things we want to make sure that all of you that are on the line today and any of the rural utility service providers has submitted a W-9 to the state of New Mexico, to the Department of Finance Administration, Vendor Relations. You are on our shared database, because that will allow us to more efficiently, effectively send you out an electronic payment via ACH from our system directly to your system. I am pleased to say that we've already initiated that process. There are several utility companies that are already receiving awards and benefiting from this program. We went live with the program April 5th. I'm here to tell you that it was quick. I often suggest to the folks that we are building the airplane as it's rolling down the tarmac, because the federal government is still providing additional guidance and the state is putting their program together. But nonetheless, I'm very proud to say that the state of New Mexico is one of the few states that launched its program faster than any other state in the country to ensure that we can provide the assistance as quickly as possible to those individuals in need. To that tune, the state of Florida reached out to me last Friday asking what we have done, how we have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished, recognizing that there's always continual improvement in the process. With that being said, I do want to recognize Executive Director Luis Reyes with Kit Carson, and thank you for participating in us developing the application, the digital application, and helping us streamline that effort. Again, in my 36 years of governmental service, public service, I can tell you I've never seen an application that is so user-friendly. It is an extremely user-friendly application. Minimal questions are asked, basically to meet the threshold and the requirements established by the Department of Treasury that have federal oversight of this program. The one major criteria is that folks have to have endured a financial hardship as a result of COVID. Either they lost their employment and or were reduced hours, or again, had family financial hardships as a result of the pandemic. An example could be an unexpected death in the family where they had to pay the burial cost and so forth. So the challenge is for us to ensure that we are beating the bushes and getting everybody that is possibly eligible to apply for this program. Again, if they did, I do not see an issue of being able to cover your arrears. I really don't. If we can get all of those folks, the 27,000 folks that are arrears, that are renters, with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, you have to be a renter to qualify. I'll talk in a minute about future funding and how that's going to transition. But for right now, in order to apply and be eligible for this program, you have to be a renter. So within your respective programs, your organizations, the ability to extract and pull out any of arrears that are identified as renters and allow us to partner with you on marketing and reaching out to these individuals to let them know about this program and to provide any technical assistance that we possibly can to assist folks to coming to the table and applying. I do recognize, I'm a realist, I do recognize there are multiple scenarios where possibly a tenant or a utility user may not be interested because they're leaving the state or maybe leaving the country and could care less if they leave the arrears. But I think that's the exceptions to the norm. You all are very unique in the fact that somewhat different from a landlord is that you all want to participate in the program. Whereas potentially there are some landlords that may not be recognizing the revenue from a rental agreement, therefore not interested in participating in the program. So again, in order to participate as a utility provider, please ensure that you have a W-9 within our system. And just as importantly, that you can allow us to work with you and collaborate with you on reaching out to any of your respective clients, customers that are eligible for the program. It's 3 minimal criteria that they have to meet. They have to be able to identify that they are facing a financial hardship, again, as a result of COVID. They meet the area median income for your respective county. They are either low or moderate income. And obviously, if you lost your job or you had your hours reduced, you're going to meet that because your income has fallen. So that's the second criteria. And the third criteria is that the current situation, and this is more to do with the rental side, is that it's creating a potential for homelessness or housing instability. That's the 3 criteria. So once they submit the application, they can do it digitally online at the website I alluded to earlier. We also allow for a paper application. We just incorporated a process within our webpage that individuals that don't have the technical resources, i.e. laptop, smartphone, tablet, access to the internet, whatever the case may be, that they can submit a paper application and we will process that for eligibility just as prudent as we would a digital application. And here's where the opportunity exists for you all. If I were a small utility provider, I would probably set up a kiosk within your respective organizations and invite your customers and your clients to utilize one of your computer systems to get online and access the digital application and submit it, because there you're giving them the opportunity to apply for the program. You're giving them the resources they need to apply for the program. And more importantly, ultimately, the award is going to come to you. So it pays their debt. Again, that would be one of the opportunities that I think exist out there. I will tell you that we are looking at various venues, various avenues to ensure that we identify all the folks that are eligible for this program, take advantage of the program and utilize it. We would have failed as a state, as small utility providers, if in the event in September 30th, which is the termination date of this program, which coincides with the federal budget year, we would have failed if we turned back money, any of the 160 million, and you all still have arrears. And more importantly, we have turned off utilities for our neighbors and our constituents within the state of New Mexico. We would have failed. And it's contingent upon us being able to identify what are the opportunities, capitalizing on those opportunities to ensure folks apply for this program, get the assistance they need, and more importantly, you all get paid the funds that are owed to you in arrears. So basically, that's kind of it in regards to the emergency rental assistance program. Very user friendly, very easy. Once the application gets submitted, we have folks on staff that are going through. I will tell you that our default position is a yes. We are trying to help as many people as we possibly can, unless there's something within that application that is a red flag and gives us a warning that it's actually not valid, the individual's not accurate. We have put some safeguards in place to ensure that any application we receive is a legitimate application to minimize fraud and so forth. But our default position is a yes. I think it's as simple as, how do we get those 27,000 that are, and then define which ones are renters and which ones would meet the income issues, get them to apply for the program and get them awarded and get the money in the hands of the utility providers. That's as simple as that is. Coming in the next horizon in the next couple of months is a new program referred to as the Housing Assistance Fund. That program provides additional eligibility for activity to include homeowners. So right now, this program, ERAP, is designed to help renters. Coming in the horizon, the Calvary's coming over the ridge, is a program that's going to help homeowners with the utility assistance. So that is coming. We are currently structuring that program in collaboration with the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority. I can tell you that, again, it has multiple eligible activities to include homeowner purchases, housing counseling, housing rehab in the event that your home is uninhabitable because of X, maybe a new roof. There's going to be funding made available to assist people in that situation, as well as utilities. So DFA will continue with the utility assistance through our efforts. You will submit an application. We will modify our current program to complement the Housing Assistance Fund program, and we will still allow. The beauty there is now it won't be limited to solely renters, but it'll be available to homeowners. So any of your folks that are homeowners in arrears would have the opportunity to get assistance. So that's coming. That's a couple of weeks away, probably a couple of months at the most. So we want to be able to provide assistance to them as well. And then possibly there's a look at ERAP 2, an Emergency Rental Assistance Program number 2, which would provide additional funding to any renters and so forth in providing assistance. But one thing I do want to mention before I forget is we definitely want to bring you all to the forefront on helping us establish the Housing Assistance Fund. So Commissioner Maestas and Jonas, if you would entertain us when we are in a position, we would definitely like to conduct a participation planning meeting with all the utility providers and obviously the general public to solicit your thoughts on how we can make the program even more efficient, more effective, and address the issues up front so that we can capitalize on the partnerships and, more importantly, leverage resources, skill sets between the various organizations so that we truly provide 100% benefit to all our constituents. And that's how I view it, is we are providing assistance to our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, when they are in need. And we all recognize at any given time, we can fall into that category. Just to let you know, in that tune, we are currently working with New Mexico courts, identifying anybody that is in the eviction process so that we can get them assistance to make sure that we can address their arrearage for their rental assistance. Obviously, that doesn't apply to you all, but that's to the extent we are going out to make sure that anybody that is eligible again for this program has the opportunity to participate. So with that, I think I've kind of hit everything I'd like to cover. One last alibi here is we will start initiating training workshops for you all to participate on a weekly basis that really defines the process. So you can become very familiar with the process of the application. So you learn that and you can provide that technical assistance to your customers and constituents. And again, with that, I guess I would end with, I think we have an opportunity to help you all and in turn to help all your customers and clients with assistance during these troubling times, but there are resources to assist them. Let's work collectively and collaboratively together so that we don't turn off water to people when in their time of most need. We don't turn off services, we don't turn off gas and so forth when we're sitting on $160 million of resources to help people. So with that, Commissioner Maestas, Jonas, I think I've kind of hit everything I wanted to talk. Any specifics? I'm going to give you my telephone number. You can call me directly and I can give you any.
Provide your email address as well, Donnie, if you could, to everybody.
You bet. So the email is going to be Donnie, DONNIE, .Quintana, QUIN, tana@state.nm.us. My telephone number is 490-5788. I say again, 505-490-5788. Anybody that has ever called me knows that if I don't answer, I will call you right back. I take great pride in being able to be responsive. Please, let's collaborate, let's work together, let's get your arrearages covered, and more importantly, let's not cut off services to people that need it right now.
Thank
So
you,
with that-
Donnie. Do you mind answering one question? We have a question in the chat from Richard
Absolutely,
Martinez.
absolutely. Sure.
His question is, how many applications have been submitted to DFA for utility assistance?
So right now we have a total of over 5,000 that have been submitted since April 5th. That combines both renters and utilities. The challenge we're having, and this is why it's so important, if you all can assist us by providing resources to an applicant so that they submit a good quality application the first time around. A lot of cases, individuals are starting an application, but not completing an application, and we can't move forward with it, i.e. they're missing maybe the invoice from the utility provider or the disconnection notice, so those are documents that help us verify and validate that the debt does exist and that they're eligible for the award. And saying that, we are making it so simple that we are accepting if an individual takes a photo with their smartphone of the invoice or the disconnection letter and forwards that to us with their application, we will accept that. So the bottom line is, right now we are working on 2,900 applicants that have been completed. I will tell you the majority of the awards that have gone out are for utility assistance. And I do recognize there's 3 different pools, if you will, of utility providers. There's obviously you all that are public utility providers regulated by the PRC. And then we have local governments that provide unique utility assistance, possibly water, wastewater services, sanitary. And then we have the mutual domestics. We have folks that like in Pecos, New Mexico, East Pecos. If you live in this side of the river, your water is provided by a water domestic. All of them are eligible to participate in this program. All of them.
Thank you, Donnie. And please, on our behalf, convey our thanks to Secretary Romero with DFA and all the staff and in doing what you're doing. I think this is a great service. I just wish, we were getting a better response. And so I hope that customers will take advantage of this program because it helps utilities and it helps the customers. So
absolutely, it's a
we
win-win.
look forward to our continued collaboration, and I consider you part of the cavalry. So please, we'll keep you plugged in, Donnie, and on how things are progressing, and then we'll determine, what changes, if any, we should make to our own order. But I think that this program is quite valuable to the state of New Mexico. So thank you for everything you do.
Obviously, and the last thing I'll end with, Joe, if you don't mind, is anybody out there that is currently with one of your small rural utility providers and would like for us to speak either at any engagement that you may host or sponsor and or in partnership with any nonprofit and or local government, let us know. We want to do the best outreach we possibly can. So with that, again, thank you all so much for the opportunity. I really look forward to the possibilities and getting to the point that one day we can all celebrate that 100% of folks that were eligible applied, and more importantly, you all received funding that is definitely owed to you. So with that, I am going to sign off and have a conversation with the mayor of Santa Fe.
Thanks, Donnie.
Bye-bye, guys.
All right, we're going to move on to comments from small utilities and electric co-ops. But before I do, as we mentioned earlier in the April 19th bench request that I sent, we did ask some questions. One of them was, do you have any specific recommendations in changing our February 3rd disconnection order? And we also asked for any Potential recommendations in terms of your own administrative policies that can assist your customers, particularly those that are vulnerable and facing disconnection. And I just want to hit the highlights before I open the floor up to the small utilities. I wanted to just call out Kit Carson. They noted that a lot of the administrative policies are approved by the PRC and can't be diverted from without a variance, which is a good point. But if Kit Carson can perhaps recommend possible changes to their own administrative policies that would be a departure from the PRC requirements, I think that would be good, that we can explore to help customers. They also suggested that the February 3rd order be amended to not require installment plans to be extended as long as needed for the customer. They propose modifying this to include a specified repayment date. But if you're familiar with the February 3rd order, we required repayment plans to extend at least until November 15th, which is the beginning of the low income heating assistance program moratorium. I also appreciate Kit Carson's packet showing all the extensive outreach that they've conducted over the past year, full page ads and papers, regular updates on PRC action, mentioning relief programs in their newsletters. I think those are the kinds of best practices that we'd like to see from the other small utilities. I also want to mention Zia Natural Gas. They emphasize that they believe a firm date is necessary to encourage customers to arrange installment plans. And both Zia Natural Gas and Hemis Electric Co-op are giving customers eligible for aid, allowing additional time for the application process to take place. And I think that's a great incentive. If they show initiative on their part, I think you should recognize them and allow them additional time to process that request for aid. Specifically, Zia is extending their disconnections by 1 to 2 weeks when an application for aid is submitted by their customers, and Hemis is putting accounts on a 1-month plan with the understanding that a longer plan can be arranged when relief funds are received. So, most utilities have not started to receive some of these disbursements from the emergency rental assistance program that Donnie mentioned, but I'm hopeful that utilities will be flexible and work with their customers to allow additional time for these funds to be dispersed. Utilities and customers need to know that the February 3rd order does currently require installment plans to be extended as needed. And I don't anticipate the commission changing that, but who knows? We'll see what the commission's desire is once we present the results of this workshop. So with that, we are going to go to comments, and these are not public comments just yet. Agenda item number 5 will follow, which is public comments in general. We're going to hear from the small utilities and rural electric co-ops that were the subject of this bench request. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. I believe, Isaac, will you be keeping time?
That's the plan, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Isaac will keep time. Isaac, do you want them to raise their hands, or I was just thinking I'd just go down the table of registered utilities and I can just call on them and they can determine whether or not they want to add to what they've already submitted.
That sounds like a good way to go for this portion of comments. I think maybe raising hands for the regular public comment section a little later would be the way to go.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go down the table and call on the entity and the representative. And again, if there are multiple representatives from the same entity, we'd prefer that only one representative speak on behalf of that entity. So first on my list is Ms. Cheryl Hubbard with EPCOR USA. Ms. Hubbard, would you like to make any comments that would add to any submissions you've already made in response to this bench request? Ms. Cheryl Hubbard with EPCOR.
Looks like you're muted, Cheryl.
Can you hear me now?
Hear you.
Bit of an
There's an
echo, but
echo
yeah.
though.
How about now?
Good.
I've had issues with my internet.
Yeah, there is an echo. You're muted now. You can also submit like feedback in the chat if you wish.
Can
if
you
you're
hear me
having
now?
problems. Oh, yes, good. Please proceed, Cheryl.
I can't tell if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. EPCOR just wants to reiterate that in March of last year, we voluntarily suspended disconnections. And in so doing, we felt compassionate about assisting our customers to avoid any additional hardship in addition to the pandemic. In some of our jurisdictions, we have customer assistance programs that enable us to provide additional support for COVID-related job loss, loss of income, those kinds of things. But in New Mexico, when we sought the same types of programs in our last rate case, we were not allowed to add them due to some legislation that prohibits that in New Mexico. So if there's things that the commission can do that would modify some of those restrictions, then that might be a program that would be useful in this environment. We have communicated the Department of Finance Administration's rent help program to our customers, and we will be sending an additional notification to customers through their bill text messaging during the month of May. The disconnect moratorium does in fact affect our cash flows. So to the extent that there's information provided that establishes the end to the public health deadlines, the sooner that we know that, the better position we'll be in to address that and communicate to our customers in a timely fashion. But there is some lead time needed in order to get those types of communications up and out to our customers. I think that's the main gist of our comments today. We are very compassionate for customers that need assistance, however, and we want the commission to know that.
Thank you, Cheryl, and I appreciate your feedback. All right, next on the list is we have several representatives from the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperative Association. We have Dan Najjar and Kevin Grunwald. Dan or Kevin, will you be speaking on behalf of Nmprc?
Commissioner Maestas, this is Dan. I think Kevin will speak on behalf of the statewide association, and we'll both be available to answer questions.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioner. Thank you for this workshop. Our filing on behalf of the by 14 distribution co-op members, you can see the responses probably varied based on interpretation of the order. You know, some of them eligible for disconnects, you know, listed 0. Well, that's because no one was eligible for disconnects because of the moratorium. Others interpreted as if there was not a moratorium, would they be eligible? So that was a little bit unclear, but there have been no disconnections. One of the things we've been kicking around as a group, and I'll let the various members have their own policies in place and they can speak for themselves. But based on what Donnie Quintana said, is there a process where we could be helpful and co-op by co-op collect from our individual members the information or the applications that need to be made and bundle them and send that to DFA? Or in the last American Rescue Plan, monies went out to county by county and city by city, and we could bundle those packages together to help our members and do it as a group rather than having to rely on each individual member to make that contact, because as you know, in rural areas, we may be somewhat limited on internet access, and some just don't, they're not online. But we have that information, and if we can contact them and make a package or a bundle and make the application on behalf of the membership, hopefully that would help streamline the process. You can see from our filing, we have roughly about $4 million in arrears throughout the membership. It's about a little less than 10%, and that's of the 30, 60, and 90-day variety. The 90 days are the ones that look like you really need to help them. The 30-day variety, by and large, will probably catch up. But again, that's kind of the general comments. A clear and concise date. If you depart from the state's public health order, which I believe has now been extended through late May.
You have about 30 seconds left.
Okay, just clear and concise when we want to start getting out there and putting in the the contacts and get everything squared away on installment plans and payment plans and things like that, which is very well laid out in Rule 410. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And I just will state, we did talk about that when we were working with DFA to launch the emergency rental assistance program. But the key is that the customer has to prove impact from the pandemic, economic impact. And so, yes, it'd be great to bundle these requests on behalf of all your customers, but this request for assistance has to come from the customer themselves. So we did look at that wishful thinking, but maybe there's a way in the future we can improve this going forward. So thank you, Kevin. The next person that signed up, and again, you don't have to speak if you don't want to, but please do speak if you want to add to your responses to the bench request. So next is Alice Hennessy with Central New Mexico Electric Cooperative. Alice, would you like to make any remarks?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We mailed letters out, I believe at the end of March, to all of our members that were behind at that time, asking them to contact us to set up payment arrangements. And we got very little response from people. I think as of right now, I think we mailed out over 500 letters. And right now we only have about 15 people that we've heard from. So we're struggling with getting people to reach out to us to set up payment arrangements. So I don't know, with the push to set up people on payment plans, we're really struggling with getting them to even contact us to do that.
Okay,
So
anything else, Alice? One thing, we've had other investor-owned utilities that have basically private funds, and even these private shareholder funds, folks are not taking advantage of it. So I think it's just going to take a lot of work to get them to request payment plans. Do you have any recommendations for us in terms of, what we can do to improve that?
I mean, we are going to reach out. We're going to do another round of letters. We're also going to do automated calls this time in conjunction with the letters that hopefully maybe a phone call will spark them to contact us. But maybe the commission can maybe push out the information to customers, push it out to the public through maybe their own website or something to help the utilities in reaching the people that need to contact us, to let them know that they need to do this.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Alice? And thank you for all your efforts. Sounds like, the 500 letters sent out is quite an effort. I know it takes a lot of work for that, but I think we need to work together on this, and I will take your recommendation to the commission too, to see what we can do to help you out, to get the word out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Next speaker we have is Joseph Herrera with Socorro Electric Cooperative. Joseph, would you like to make any remarks?
Yes, good morning, Commissioner. I appreciate the opportunity to make some remarks. We're seeing the same thing. We've done the same effort as Central New Mexico with the letters with low response. I think we've had 2 members who have put in applications for the DFA funds. So we're assisting them with that out of like 675 letters that were sent out. When this whole pandemic started, we were already in a winter moratorium from 2019. And we voluntarily at Socorro Electric extended the moratorium, and then the orders came out to extend the disconnect moratorium. I would have a recommendation that the PRC should look at that November 15, 2021 date, because we kind of work with our members that they have to be caught up per that date. And now we're extending that to the 15th, then we're going to be running into that time frame where we're trying to get people caught up and they're not caught up, and then we're disconnecting coming into the winter. So if the PRC could look at backing that up a little bit, that'd be assistance. And we have the same concerns that Kit Carson has with the variances of the PRC rules. From the February order, we were sending out the disconnect notices. Our notice that was filed with the PRC did have the words disconnect, but we were not disconnecting. We're just trying to keep people alert that they had this balance that was growing. The arrearage was continuing to pile up. And so when we stopped sending out those, that kind of stopped the engagement. We saw a reduction in our payment installment plans. And so our plan is after May 5th is to resend out the notices, get people reacclimated to receiving those notices. So we're going to extend it 1 month before we start going through the disconnect process. And in those 15-day notices, we'll be including applications for the DFA program as well. So that's what we're doing here at Socorro Electric. I appreciate you doing this, Commissioner, and it's helpful to get this information. I know at the last workshop, I had mentioned to Commissioner Fishman, and he had asked Judy, we have a problem with members who are deceased, and we get notice of deceased, and we haven't disconnected those members because Commissioner Fishman said that he would address that in the next order that was going to come out from that
We
workshop.
have about 30 seconds left.
And so we're in the same boat as everyone. We just want to help out our members and do what's best for our membership who are keeping up on their bills so that they don't have to pay these uncollected arrearages as we're working with everyone. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you for your suggestions. Next on the list, we have Lance Adkins with Farmers Electric Cooperative. Mr. Adkins, would you like to make any comments to add to the responses to the bench request?
Yes, I would. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I just also want to express my appreciation for the opportunity to participate today and hopefully gain a better understanding of where we are with the current status of orders. I know we have a new health order out. And, perhaps we here as a small system may not fully understand exactly where we're headed under the current status of the orders. But, it was interesting to listen to Mr. Quintana talk about the, requirements for the rental assistance. I did understand him to say that one of the things they look for is a disconnect letter. And it's my understanding that we are continue under a prohibition on sending that type of notice. I would also point out we have received no funds from that rental assistance programs to date. I did check with our folks this morning. Also wanted to note we have been in contact with our local county and municipality who are in line to receive significant CARES funding, both of whom have told us they have no intention, at least at this point, to make funds available for utility type assistance. They point us to LIHEAP and to the special funding for the rental assistance. Now they may look at that differently in the future, but most of them don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to do this type of assistance on a large scale. I also wanted to point out that in the current order, the minimum period for installment plans is kind of a one-size-fits-all determination. As I pointed out, or as we pointed out on our filing, roughly half of those that are past due are only past due on the most current bill. And so it doesn't make sense to have a long-term installment plan for someone who is just past due on the most current bill. I did want to comment, I believe Kevin Gronwald said that the responses to the bench request may not be apples to apples. I think he pointed out on who might be eligible for disconnection, but also on the assistance totals that we might have received. We reported for the most current month and not the total that we have received through the COVID period. I do want to point out probably the regulatory uncertainty has translated to our customers that there's no teeth or impetus for them to pay or even seek assistance because they know we cannot disconnect. So I think some help would be that we put some teeth in that and recognize that utilities do work in the best interest at the local level to really determine who is in need and who is gaming the system. That would be my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. And just some quick responses. I don't think that imminent disconnection is the trigger for assistance for utilities through the DFA program, the emergency rental assistance. I think arrearages certainly can qualify them for utility assistance. Also, regarding the minimum installment plan period, we will look at that. I see a common thread in what you're telling us, so we will take a look at that going forward. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Next on the list we have is Miss Donna Venable with Continental Divide Electric Co-op. Donna, would you like to make some remarks in addition to what you've already provided?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Maestas. Our experience in the past has always been that customers don't take action until they actually have a disconnect notice in their hand. We have been notifying our customers since February in different ways about the end of the moratorium. We've contacted every member we have a phone number on and email address for. We've also done bill inserts and the enchantment. So we have reached every single member who is in arrears. We have not received any funds from the rental assistance program at this point. We did send out letters to our medical and financial members. Oh, there were over 100 of them. We've only gotten 15 of them back. They will be given an additional 2 to 3 months to get that information in, as we understand folks are unable to get into their doctors sometimes. The only other comment we had was about the LIHEAP program. The qualifications for that second round of funding were very limiting. If the customer was not current on April 1st of 2020, they did not qualify for another LIHEAP payment. That meant folks coming out of the winter moratorium on March 15th still did not get another payment. So they are not only behind a year, they're behind that winter moratorium from November 19th. That's going to be very difficult for folks to catch up on. That's a 1.5 year bill. In order to qualify for LIHEAP in November, they will still have to continue to make those payments. So I know that was a federal guideline, but I did want to bring it up as an issue.
Thank you, Ms. Venable. I appreciate that. And I want to make just a general comment is that you heard from Mr. Quintana with DFA that there's different pots of assistance, utility assistance, one for renters and one for non-renters or homeowners. So if I'm sure many of you in your customer profiles don't differentiate whether people are renters or homeowners, but that may be something you may want to do in the course of interacting with your customers in the context of trying to, get repayment plans and work with them individually. And so that may help you going forward to better facilitate some of this federal assistance. All right.
And we have put the renter's assistance on our website and in our mailing.
Great.
We did not have any information on the homeowner program, so we will reach out to Mr. Archuleta.
Thank you, Ms. Venable. Next on the list, we have Ms. Diana Justice with Sandia Peak Utility Company. Diana, would you like to make a few remarks? Diana Justice, are you out there?
I am. At this time, we do not have any comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, moving on, we have the next entity is Central Valley Electric Co-op. Chuck Pinson. Chuck, would you like to make comments on behalf of Central Valley?
Yes, Commissioner, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect. And then thank you. I think I just have a few comments. First off, I'd really like to express appreciation for John Reynolds. John Reynolds has been helpful for us in trying to understand how to strategize going forward. Now that there's our members recognize that there's a hard date on May 5th, that after that date, there's could potentially be disconnections. We are getting movement from some of our members who are entering into settlement agreements. I'd say that our employees are actively working hard to try to personally contact a lot of our members that are deep into debt to try to work with them to set up a settlement payment plan. And we're starting to see some progress in that. Currently, we have about a dozen members that have entered into settlement agreements now that they realize that May 5th is the hard date. So now that they recognize that hard date is coming, we are seeing movement and participation from our members. I'd also mention we do have the information for assistance that we have been sending to our members through our newsletter. And we've also got a link for the rental assistance on our website. So we're trying to communicate that. But now that there is a hard date, we are seeing some movement now. So I guess that's all I would have to say. Commissioner, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pinson. Next on the list is Ms. Stacy Avendano with the New Mexico Water Service. Ms. Avendano, would you like to make a few remarks?
I would. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner Maestas. We echo EPCOR Water's position, and a lot of what's being said today, we totally agree with. We have added a link to our website. We've been sending letters. We've been making customer phone calls. We did an email blast trying to get customers to reach out and either reach out to us for help so we can do a contract, or even visit the website and follow the link to get additional financial help. We're having most people at this point, since they know we're not disconnecting, they do not want to sign a contract. So we do believe that once the disconnect notices go out, that the customers will immediately start calling, asking for additional assistance and to sign up for help. and use the contracts. I've got the question I have is, once the moratorium ends, will we be expected to actually reopen our customer centers? Because right now we are not open where the customers can actually walk into the offices. We're doing everything by phone and by mail. And so that's my big question. And I do appreciate the opportunity to participate in the workshop today. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. And with respect to reopening your centers, I would defer to the public health order by the governor in terms of any kind of parameters around social distancing and mask wearing. That's what I would do.
Okay, I just know it's in the PRC rules that when we're doing disconnects, that the offices must be open. That's why I'm questioning that.
You know what? That's a good question. Judy, are you listening in? Can you address that now, Judy?
Right now, under our current order, I believe you were correct, Commissioner. They would need to follow the county's restrictions. That being said, we could specifically put that in an order that each center follows its own county restrictions. We could issue an order clarifying that.
Okay, Stacy, was that satisfactory?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have Mr. Michael Hastings with Hemis Mountains Electric Cooperative. Mr. Hastings, would you like to make a few remarks?
Yes, please. Good morning, everyone. And
Good morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Maestas, for this. It's been helpful. We apologize for the typographical errors we made in that report, and we'll fix those. And also, we're like most of the folks that have talked, we're working hard with our members to set up payment plans and what have you, to help them deal with the debt that they have. We have no additional comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. All right, next we have Mr. David Link with Raton Natural Gas. David, would you like to make a few remarks on behalf of Raton Natural Gas? David.
Yes, I would like to. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for pulling this group together today. It's been very educational and informative. One thing I would like to add, which I don't believe I've heard yet, is that we rely very heavily on nonprofits in our town to support the community. Those include foundations, trusts, estates, and churches. And they've been extremely beneficial in finding the funds to keep people in service and help them out in many different ways. That has been a way of life in Raton. Unfortunately, we're a very small community of about less than 7,000 individuals, and we have fewer than 3,000 accounts. So we know most of the people on a personal basis. We know where the need exists, and we do our best to come up with liberal and flexible payment plans to ensure that people are kept in service and that their account arrearages are kept to a minimum. I hope that all the utilities can do the same. I know that we're in a special situation because we are so small. We can manage our customer base on a diligent basis, and our folks in our office know all the customers because we have long-term employment at Raton Natural Gas. We have 3 people in our office, and they average almost 20 years of service each. So They know the community, they know where the need stands, and we do our best to meet that need. Once again, thank you very much for calling this together. And I know that you'll be very successful in coming up with additional guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you for that comment that I think this is going to take the entire community, including nonprofits, to really help those that are less fortunate, and specifically customers that are facing arrearages and possible disconnection. Thank you. Next on the list, we have several members that signed up from Otero County Electric Cooperative. So I'd like to call on Delbert Lucero or Michael Winrow to speak on behalf of Otero County Electric Cooperative, if you so desire. Delbert or Michael, would you like to make some remarks on behalf of the co-op?
Yeah, this is Mike. I guess I will be responding on that one.
Hi, Mike.
So yeah, I know it's a little confusing. I'm with everybody else on as long as it takes, the wording. But in addition, I know over the last 14 months, I would say in September, we took our 90-day customers and physically hung a voucher, not a voucher, a brochure stating that to please contact LIHEAP or whatever assistance was helping at the time on the door if they weren't there. A phone number to make payment arrangements at that time, trying to get ahead of the end of year for LIHEAP so they didn't miss out on last year's LIHEAP since we weren't doing notices. Didn't get many phone calls back then, but our LIHEAP payments did pick up for that month. We did the same in January. And now we're currently also calling and letting them know and trying to make arrangements again and handing out forms that have phone numbers and addresses for assistance that we're getting assistance from. So to me, it seems like until we start hanging somewhat threatening language on the door or changing our language, we're just not getting the payment arrangement end of it. They are going for assistance, but they're not calling to make arrangements.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Next on the list, we have Gwen Mascareñas with Mora San Miguel Electric Cooperative. Gwen, would you like to make some remarks on behalf of Mora San Miguel?
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
As
you.
has been mentioned by other participants, we are struggling to connect with our members and make some type of written or verbal payment arrangements. We do try to reach out to them using Facebook, our website, and any customer contact. We are recommending that they apply for the different programs available, such as LIHEAP, the Help New Mexico office, and now the rental assistance program. But we also are facing the issues of customers with over 90-day delinquencies do not or have not made an attempt to reach out to us. And until we probably deliver those door hangers or make courtesy calls on delinquent accounts, we may not be able to be in touch or get in touch with them and make those arrangements. So we're hoping that things improve and we're able to connect and work with them as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Next on the list, representing Sierra Electric Cooperative is Denise Barrera. Denise, do you wish to make any remarks on behalf of Sierra Electric?
Yes, I just like to, and thank you for having us at this workshop. I just would like to, in the final order, to be a little more specific onto the actual deadline that we can carry out installment agreements. And also we're being very specific with our members that they would have to pay the current bill plus any amount that's due from the installment agreement. But I really think that we need some definitive date that says, because the original one said, it's basically up to our consumers. But I don't think carrying an installment for, year and a half or 2 years is beneficial to us or to the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next on the list, representing Southwestern Electric Cooperative is Travis Sullivan. Travis, would you like to make some brief remarks?
Yes, thank you. Apologize for getting on a little bit late, so I'm sure a lot of our comments would coincide with the other co-ops like Denise just made. We've been doing our best to contact customers by phone, and the LIHEAP, a lot of the same things you've heard already. I won't reiterate, but we're doing our best to try to take care of them right now.
Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Next on the list, let's see, I think we heard from New Mexico Water Service Company. Columbus Electric Cooperative. We have Chris Martinez and Rachel Marufo. Will Chris or Rachel be making any remarks on behalf of Columbus Electric? Chris or Rachel? Chris or Rachel going once, twice? All right, we'll move on then. Next is Denise McDaniel with Lee County Electric Co-op. Denise, would you like to make remarks on behalf of Lee County? Denise. Denise McDaniel with Lee County going once, twice. All right, let's move on.
Oh, there it was. Sorry.
She was muted.
All right, go ahead, Denise.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my thing to unmute. I think all of our concerns have already been expressed, and so just to leave it on the table that, you know, we're concerned working with our customers as much as we can. We don't want to leave anyone in a lurch with no power, but again, we just are trying our best to get them to work.
Thank you, Denise. All right, we've already heard from New Mexico Water Service Company and Continental Divide. Next is Roosevelt County Electric Co-op, Antonio Sanchez. Antonio, would you like to make any comments on behalf of Roosevelt County Electric Co-op?
Sure, I'd appreciate that opportunity. First of all, Commissioner Maestas, I appreciate you putting this together and allowing us to speak on behalf of our utilities and our experiences throughout this moratorium. Here at Roosevelt, we're probably one of the more luckier utilities, for lack of a better word, with respect to our arrears. They're not as detrimental as I've seen out there compared to some of the others, but we do have them, and we are working with our members, providing them the notice that we were asked to do so, not only because we have to, but because we'd like to work with them. They are our owners of our utility after all. And so we have information on our website. We verbally discuss these with them on the telephone. The downside to this, as witnessed through the information that we provided to you, they are very reluctant to do anything at this time. And I don't know if it's because of the protection in place that they know we cannot disconnect them. And I just have a feeling that once that is lifted and we're eligible to start doing so, that's going to prompt them to make arrangements. And so that's kind of my opinion on the matter. I'm just kind of curious too, you know, we've always been following the Rule 410 procedures and guidelines, which I know is kind of off to the wayside right now during the moratorium. But the terms and verbiage within the Rule 410 with regard to disconnects and settlements, I'm just kind of curious to know how the final order is going to come about with respect to the timeline that they're to be given. I know in the bill that was most recently gone through the legislature that was trying to establish basically assistance for arrears and other non-payments from those that aren't able to make them, that there was discussion within the bill that we have to establish a payback based on their abilities. And so I'm just kind of curious if that's kind of going to be the perceived way of doing this when we do move forward. In other words, if they can only pay $1 a month, do we have to go with their ability to only pay $1 a month and not disconnect? You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of curious what the final rule is going to be. And I believe many of the other utilities are as well. But with that being said, Commissioner Maestas, I do appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you for your work that you do for us.
Thank you, Antonio. I appreciate that. And I will take that feedback on Rule 410. I don't think that's the scope of our action right now, but I certainly will, we'll move that forward. Next on the list is a Springer. I don't think we've heard from Springer Electric Cooperative. We have Christy Romero. Christy, would you like to make a few remarks on behalf of Springer Electric Co-op? Christy Romero. Christy Romero, going once, twice. All right, we'll move on.
Commissioner Christy Romero is on the call. It looks like she's on the phone. I've asked her to unmute, but maybe if she has comments later, she can chime in.
Okay, sounds good. So next on my list is Kit Carson Electric Cooperative. Carmela Suazo. Carmela, would you like to make comments on behalf of Kit Carson?
Yeah, Commissioner Maestas, this is Richard Martinez with Kit Carson Electric.
Hey, Richard.
All right, hey, thank you for allowing us to speak and comment on this. Kit Carson has done a lot of outreach with our members, as we submitted in the bench request. We will also include some more information to Jonas. We did get some assistance from Rio Riva County for some of their members that we forgot to include, but we will submit that. Most of our comments are things we did submit, so we don't have nothing else at this time.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for all you do on behalf of your customers. Next, we have on the list representing Lake Section Water Company, Bobby Wright. Bobby Wright, would you like to make some remarks on behalf of Lake Section Water Company? Bobby Wright, you out there?
Hi, this is Bobby. We don't have any comments at this time. We're enjoying listening, but no comments at this time.
Thank you, Bobby. All right, next on the list is Zia Natural Gas. We have 3 representatives that signed up, but I'd like to just have one representative, either Joan Drake, Leslie Graham, or Merritt Coburn.
Hi, Commissioner Maestas. This is Joan Drake.
Hi, Joan.
Hi there. Speaking on behalf of Zia, thank you very much for this workshop. I think it's been very helpful. You've heard a lot of good comments from others this morning, and I don't know that Zia has much to add. There were a lot of comments this morning that resonate with us as well. We're having similar issues. So we look forward to seeing how this plays out once we are able to provide disconnection notices to our customers. I think it might be useful to follow up on this maybe later on, since we are exiting the winter heating season. So for gas utilities in particular, we may see folks just shutting off their gas instead of coming into us. That's a concern of ours, but we can't say that for sure yet, but we're going to keep an eye on that as we get into the summer season.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I believe that completes the list of small utilities and electric cooperatives. Are there any of those that we haven't heard from? Otherwise, I'm going to move to public comments, and that public comment will also be comments from investor-owned utilities that have signed up. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and your title and your utility.
Hi, this is Christy Romero on behalf of Springer Electric. I apologize for not getting off of mute in time. We
Please
have
go
a
ahead.
lot of, we do echo a lot of the comments that have already been made, but I just had an idea to throw out there on the issue of, that's been brought up, of the customer basically determining how long they need to repay their past due balance. If maybe they can consider when looking at this, if we establish a date that maybe it's done by the amount of their arrearage, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all date. That's just an idea I was throwing out there. And then we just wanted to thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to participate and provide feedback.
Thank you, Christy. All right, we're going to move on to public comment, and I want to start with Monique. I know she had a comment, and I want to just let her know that if she's got a very specific issue with a specific utility company, we do have a complaint process through our consumer relations division, and we can give you contact information on how to go about that offline if possible. So Monique, I'd like to call on Monique. Are you still on? Monique, I assume this is Monica
It looks like
Torres.
she's signed off.
She signed off?
It
Okay.
looks like it.
All right, and was that Monica Torres? Is there a Monica Torres that signed up? I wonder if that's Monique.
I think you're right.
Okay, all right. All right, next, in terms of public comment, representing the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, otherwise known as SWEEP, is Tammy Feeblecorn. Tammy, would you like to make a few remarks on behalf of SWEEP? Tammy, are you on? Is she on, Jonas?
She is, and I was muted as I said that, and Ms. Feibelkorn is also muted.
Tammy, you're on mute. Would you like to make some remarks? All right, we'll come back to Tammy and give her some time. In terms of the investor-owned utilities representing Xcel Energy, we have Zoe Lees. Zoe, is Zoe still on? Zoe, would you like to make a few remarks on behalf of Xcel Energy?
Commissioner Maestas, and thank you for this valuable opportunity and discussion, and allowing the electric IOUs to attend and listen to the discussion. We appreciate the dialogue and the opportunity to listen. SPS remains committed to finding creative ways to connect with our customers, and to let them know about the energy assistance opportunities that there are afterwards, including the new DFA ERAP and the CARES Act money out there. And we'll continue to work with customers to resolve their bill arrearages, excuse me. But other than that, I don't have any additional comments.
Thank you, Zoe. And we may be doing something very similar for IOUs as we approach that date, the expiration of the moratorium date.
I think that would be really valuable. Thank you, Commissioner Maes.
Would you like us to do that, Zoe?
I think that would be valuable, and I think the closer we get to that date, the electric IOUs especially will probably know and be able to identify any issues that need to be discussed in a workshop like this. Again, I think we're just continuing to look for creative ways to get customers to take advantage of these resources. This workshop has been useful in listening to the discussion and knowing that this is a universal challenge. So any ideas that the commission or other folks have about connecting customers above and beyond what we're already doing, those ideas are really valued. So thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. I appreciate that.
Commissioner Maestas?
Next, yes.
Sorry. I was going to say we do have a comment from a Bianca. Oh, I'm gonna say her last name wrong, Bianca with Earth Care and Yucca, and asked if she could make comments on their behalf.
Sure. Go ahead, Bianca. You've got 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for allowing me to speak. So I'm with Earth Care, which is the host organization for both Santa Fe Mutual Aid and Yucca, Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, both of whom have been involved in rulemaking discussions and legislation discussions around arrearages since the pandemic began. And Santa Fe Mutual Aid, you've heard from our members before, provides direct aid to community members who are in need. So a lot of the role of that organization is to connect folks to assistance programs. And just listening to the discussion today, I wanted to offer that we're part of a national network, an energy democracy network that is looking at this question, both in terms of long-term moratoria on shutoffs, and then also how to deal with arrearages. And in terms of the barriers to people accessing the aid that's currently available, Santa Fe Mutual Aid is working to help people apply for the current state funding, both for rental assistance and utility arrearages. But we work primarily with the Spanish-speaking community in Santa Fe County, and folks just have a lot of difficulty knowing that those resources exist and then navigating the application processes. There's language barriers, there's tech barriers. And so what we're talking about with our partners on the national level is that these funds should be applied automatically to accounts that are in arrearages over a certain time period, with the understanding that folks are under duress and financial hardship. And when that is the experience of our community members, just like when we're experiencing that, it's harder for us to jump through hoops, right? When people are in crisis. So that's what other states are looking to do as well, and what advocates are pushing other states to do through rulemaking or through legislation. And so, it's clear that there's funds available that aren't being accessed. And the reason is because there are barriers to access. And so those barriers should be eliminated, and the relief should just be applied where it's needed. And we also believe that shareholders should throw in more towards this. So that's another point that we continue to raise. But yeah, we're thankful to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you for all you do at Earth Care and Santa Fe Mutual Aid. Next on the list, we have representing New Mexico Gas Company, Tom Domey. I believe I pronounced his last name correctly. Tom, are you still on, and would you like to make remarks on behalf of New Mexico Gas Company?
Yes, I am, Commissioner. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
welcome.
Good. So thank you very much for holding this. And I just have 3 quick points to make. Number one is this has been very interesting. And you're right. We will be dealing with all of these issues as our transition period ends in 90 days from the middle of May. So this has been very, very helpful for us. I was very impressed with the discussion that Donna Quintana put in there about the amount of money that's out there. I was not aware of that amount, and the way he put it was so well put, and that is there is a lot of money out there. We just need to make it available. And I think the prior speaker, I think, was even saying that same thing. The next thing is I do think that a workshop like this, Commissioner, would be very advantageous for the IOUs as we proceed through this. We've learned a lot today. And the last thing is we've been wondering about the connection between, I think everybody's in the same place. We all want to keep the customers connected, and we all want them to get access to the money, and we all want to work on the payment plans. But I'm intrigued and interested in the idea that the disconnection notice has an impact upon closing down the arrearages, and that's something that we've thought was probably true, but it's something that I think I've learned today, that there is a connection between those two things. And And we may not want that to be the case, but I think that appears to be the case. So thank you, Commissioner, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that, and thanks for that recommendation. Next on the list, representing another electric investor-owned utility, it's El Paso Electric, Joe Garibay. Joe, would you like to make remarks on behalf of El Paso Electric?
Yes, I would. Thank you for having the opportunity to comment on this residential arrearage. The agenda listed 5 objectives, but I think when we look at it, there's one objective that really counts, and that is, how do we get customers to apply for this $160 million in federal assistance that is available right now? If customers apply and get the help, we don't have to talk about installment plans. We don't have to talk about debt forgiveness or any of that, because the money is there to take care of it. So if the goal is to get customers to apply for assistance, the moratorium is going to have to be lifted with enough time for customers to take advantage of this federal assistance program. We all heard the assistance program goes away September 30th. The money gets pulled back to the federal government. It's going to end up in states like Minnesota or Arkansas, where they're using the money and stuff like that. So, you know, it's not good for the customers who have the need for this. It's not good for the utilities. It's not good for New Mexico. This is money that could go into our economy and start taking advantage of it. So how do we do this? I know what I'm saying is harsh. I'm saying we need to start disconnects. We need to create the urgency with the customer to go ask for the assistance. Utilities don't like disconnecting customers. It's not good business to disconnect the customer. We take a chance of losing a customer when we disconnect them. What utilities want is the opportunity to talk to that customer. And those customers won't talk to us unless we go out there and, you know, create the urgency. I can tell you at El Paso Electric, we are working with the county. They got $9 million in this rental assistance. It's available right now. We're going to the apartment complexes because it's a renters program, dropping off notices, doing what we can to get these customers to apply. It doesn't generate the traction. You know, I wish it did. We want this money to come back, but it's not generating the traction. The sad reality is customers who find themselves in massive debt like this have to deal with the issue that's most pressing. The most pressing issue right now is not utilities and it's not rent because it's protected. They're dealing with putting food on the table. They're dealing with putting gas in their cars to get to their job. They're not thinking about utility service. So if we're gonna, you know, they're squeaking by. They're trying to do what they can right now, and they're not thinking about utilities or rent. But what's happening is that debt is growing, and it's
30 seconds left
now. And so I would ask you to seriously consider ending the moratorium with enough time so that these customers can take advantage of these programs before September 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And I will make one comment regarding the federal funding. I probably shouldn't say this, but when the PRC worked with DFA to launch this program, the feds had indicated that if the state can demonstrate that they obligate a certain majority of the funding by the end of the federal fiscal year, they would be extended through the calendar year. I'm not sure what that level was. I think it was maybe 75%. I don't quite recall, but if we prove that we can really move this money and get it in the hands of those that need it, we can get an extension of the availability of it through the calendar year. So stay tuned for that. We'll keep everybody apprised of how that develops. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Our last investor-owned utility is a public service company of New Mexico. We have Adam Alvarez and Mario Cervantes. Will Adam or Mario speak on behalf of PNM?
Thank you, Commissioner Maestas, for the opportunity. This is Mario Cervantes with PNM. Just to reiterate what other utilities have already expressed in that despite ongoing communication and outreach efforts that we've implemented, which include PSAs, bill inserts, radio spots, newspaper ads, and we've done that pretty much since the pandemic started, the response from customers has been very low. So I do agree with the comments that Joe just provided, that as long as there is not a danger of disconnect, customers will likely not feel the urgency to reach out, and that has been our experience. So just want to reiterate that and emphasize that. And also just to comment that we have rolled out a communication plan to make customers aware of the ERA program. That plan includes PSAs, radio spots, and targeted communication efforts like robocalls and emails to customers to let them know about the program and the funds that are available to hopefully create that urgency so that they apply and take advantage of these programs. But we are looking at every single opportunity and approaching this from every angle to try and get that help for customers in every way we can, and that has been consistent and ongoing since the pandemic started. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and we really appreciate letting us provide these comments. So thank you.
Thank you, Mario. I appreciate that. I'm going to come back to Tammy with Southwest Energy Efficiency Project. Tammy, would you like to make a few remarks?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry about my technical issues earlier. I just wanted to make the comment that, we hear a lot about the fact that we need to send disconnect notices before anyone will pay. And I would just encourage the PRC and the utilities to think of other options. Getting a collection letter is not the best way of collecting debt, especially from low-income New Mexicans that are extremely stressed right now with other issues. There are really good community partners in each of our communities, nonprofits that are out there on the ground every day working with these folks, and they don't have the trust issues that utilities have with their customers. And so why aren't we partnering with those folks to really reach these people in a way that they can understand, both with bilingual services and having some trust with someone that you've worked with in the past, rather than getting a scary disconnect notice. So I would just encourage and hope that everyone can see that there are additional options beyond just a disconnect notice to scare people into reprioritizing and taking out a payday loan, for example, to really help them get through this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate that. And I think Zoe Lees with Excel would like to just make a few more comments. Zoe, briefly, if you could.
Very briefly, I was just going to offer the state of Wisconsin as an example. Yesterday, the state governor and the State Utilities Commission announced that they were going to automatically issue $21 million through that state's LIHEAP program to pay customers' bills who had already received energy assistance. And I think it was up to a certain amount. I don't know what that is. Commissioner, I can send the press release from Wisconsin to Jonas if you would like. But
yeah, please do.
There are states that in which the commission and governors are issuing that energy assistance automatically to folks to get past the hurdle that people have in applying. So
thank you for that, Zoe. Please send it to Jonas. We'd appreciate that. Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comments. So we're on to item number 6 on the agenda. Judy Amer will discuss the possible plans for recovery of arrearages. Judy?
Yes, Commissioner and participants. I think we have already talked about how the various methods that utilities can go about for collecting, for trying to get past due customers to pay. But I think this portion of the workshop would be for utilities to state what their long-term plans might be if they have uncollectible arrears. And so I'm going to open it up to the participants if they would like to state, what they're thinking of. Yeah. Is that correct, Commissioner Maestas? Is that what you wanted this portion to be about?
Well, yes, because you know, unlike the investor-owned utilities, the co-ops, their customers are members. And we've already heard at a previous workshop that co-ops are really, the debt that they're carrying is beginning to impact their operations. It's affecting they're requiring them to defer maintenance. And so we just wanted to briefly touch on plans for recovery of arrearages. As I understand, Judy, we really don't regulate that.
It depends. It depends whether or not a utility comes in for a rate case. And with respect to co-ops, that would be subject to protest and having the sufficient number of protesters. And at that point, the commission would have jurisdiction to entertain a rate increase.
So the real issue to me is how long can electric co-ops and small utilities in this case sustain their operations and carry this debt in the form of arrearages before they decide to recover it in a rate case? Because again, I think we've all heard that this federal aid is just beginning to get out there and make a slight difference. And Mr. Quintana said it can make a major difference if we can get customers to apply for this aid. And so I think that was the real intent of this discussion is, you know, I would say if co-ops can hold out and sustain themselves and allow more time for this federal aid to get out there to their customers, I think that would be better, because if they file a rate case, then there's going to be subsidization of this debt from their other customers that are staying current on their bills. Would you agree with that, Judy?
Well, it depends, of course, on each particular situation. The only thing I would like to add about the federal assistance is in New Mexico, there may be a lot of customers in rural electric cooperatives jurisdiction that are not renters, and the federal assistance is limited to renters only. So New Mexico might appear to be unique in the sense that perhaps Congress thought that most of the people who needed assistance would be renters, while in New Mexico, there are probably a lot of people who need assistance who are actually homeowners. And so they would not be eligible for that federal money. So, I mean, that's just an interesting fact that I can't, I don't know whether the federal assistance, at least this particular package, is going to be like the panacea to this problem. That being said, we would like to hear from any rural electrics or small gas about what their plan. I would say plan A would be to have all customers pay past due arrearages. Okay, well, if plan A doesn't work out exactly the way everyone hopes it does, what is their plan B? And is there anyone who's interested in discussing that?
Would anyone like to throw anything out there? Okay, Mr. Atkins, he raised his hand. Mr. Atkins, would you like to respond briefly?
Just a few thoughts. If we're talking about looking at including this in a future rate case, and each co-op may handle these a little bit differently, but so long as the member or the customer is an active account, the assumption is they will eventually pay. And so the only time we schedule an account for write-off is once they've been disconnected and are no longer receiving service. And so I believe that is the only point, at least for us, where that might show up in a rate case. Absent that, the only other way I could see that working is if you were able to, at least on paper or in the system, disconnect the customer for the level of bat dip they have, and then continuing them on with a clean start. Absent that, I don't know how you would have that outstanding debt in a rate case.
Thank you. Judy, anything else on this topic?
I don't have anything else to add. I think everyone is aware of the order that was issued in the 2069 case in June 2020, which allowed all public utilities regulated by the commission are authorized to create regulatory assets for the accounting deferral of COVID-19 related uncollectible arrearages and other expenses incurred during the period beginning March 11th, 2020, through the termination of the governor of New Mexico's executive orders. This order does not create a presumption of reasonableness or otherwise provide any guarantee of rate recovery of any costs or alleged lost revenues being deferred. And it has other specific provisions in there about how to track that. And I don't know which utilities here are following that order, but that's just for informational purposes.
Okay, thank you, Judy.
Okay.
We had someone raise their hand. I think, was it Mr. Herrera?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, I was going to say, and I appreciate Judy bringing that up. The regulatory asset is not a vehicle that the co-ops can use as a form of recovering those uncollectible arrearages. So I was just going to mention that our plan B is to continue to work with our members. We know who are trying to work to get their payments caught up. But other than that, we don't have those type of vehicles of the regulatory asset. So thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Anything else, Judy, so we can maybe conclude? Maybe perhaps I can recap, what we heard today. Anything else, Judy? Is there anybody else?
I don't have anything else except the members of the public, for example, that other woman who was speaking earlier, is she still wanting to speak, or is there anyone else?
Judy, I believe that Monica signed off. I don't see her on the participant list anymore. I did see a hand raised just now from Ms. Hubbard, Cheryl Hubbard, that went down. And Commissioner, I did have two comments in the chat that I wanted to make you and everybody else aware of before we move on. Joe from EPE did point out that they are seeing the issue with renters and homeowners and trying to steer renters to the emergency rental assistance program and homeowners to LIHEAP. And then Mr. Antonio Sanchez wanted to clarify, he had referenced Rule 410 earlier, that's 17.5.410, and wanted to point out that it says a 6-month installment agreement for residential customers with significant arrearages. That's what it applies to. So just wanted to draw everybody's attention to those contributions.
Okay. Thanks. Judy, anything else?
No, not at this time.
Well, I want to thank everyone for participating and sitting through this. I mean, this is a significant problem for the entire state of New Mexico. And I mean, I think most of you, I think, clearly feel that the only way to get the attention and get responses from your customers to engage in a repayment plan is to issue a disconnect notice. And I know you really feel like you've tried a number of different methods innovative methods as well. There seems to be some agreement among utilities and community groups that there are too many barriers to access the relief aid. And I know that these programs do allow for assistance to flow in lieu of documentation. There is a self-certification that can be done. So we can engage further with DFA to see if there's a way we can allow this aid to flow better. And I think we heard from SWEEP, from certain community groups, and Bianca with Earth Care, that they think utilities could be more creative than just sending a disconnect notice. And there could be room, I think, for compromise for the commission to consider to take appropriate action regarding the order. As I mentioned at the outset of the workshop, we are going to make the results of this bench request available to the public. We are going to present these results to the commission for potential action next week. And we are certainly going to look at the one size fits all on the repayment plan period. I think we heard that loud and clear that we probably need to make that a bit more flexible for you all. So we may come up with some recommendations in that regard. So I hope this kind of summarizes the feedback today. And obviously, I think we did have some participation by investor-owned utilities. We are likely to have a similar workshop in advance of the deadline for the moratorium to disconnect for investor-owned utilities. So we'll be planning something very similar. Jonas or Judy, did I fail to mention anything, any other common threads that we heard today before we conclude?
Commissioner, the only thing I might add is there was a comment. I don't.
Or Judy, you muted.
Judy, on mute.
Sorry. There was a comment that perhaps Jonas could find about uncollectible arrearages.
You muted again, Judy.
About uncollectible arrearages. What, did someone ask a question about that, Jonas?
I don't.
There was a question from Donna Venable that was, what classifies arrears as uncollectible?
Right, and the only comment that I heard was from Mr. Adkins. And I was just wondering whether that was all the other participants' understanding of that term. In other words, that an uncollectible arrearage is a customer that has been disconnected. Is that the, of the industry definition of an uncollectible arrearage?
Yeah, I thought Mr. Atkins stated that the only time a debt can be written off is after disconnection.
Well, right, but he said it might be different for other utilities. But so I was just wondering, is that correct? Is it different for other utilities, or is that universal? You have to literally disconnect someone in order for it to be an uncollectible arrearage. Anyone wanting to wade into that?
I think they're all a little
Some comments.
Go ahead, Jonas. You want to just state the comment?
Yeah, I've got a comment from Mr. Joe Garibay. Arrears normally refers to debt that is past due. Uncollectible normally means you will not be able to collect. And okay, so whether that means it's after a disconnection, I think is still uncertain.
Okay.
So I'll see if I can clarify it a little bit. Normally, if you have debt, it's in arrears, it's part of your receivables, and there's some expectation that you might collect it. When you talk about uncollectibles, it could be an active customer, bankruptcies or something like that. where you say, you know what, this guy owes $2,000. He may stay active, but you know you're never going to get that $2,000. That $2,000 becomes uncollectible.
There are more than it's not just a disconnection that makes something uncollectible.
You have to have that expectation that you will not be receiving those funds. It's kind of gone, even though the customer might be there.
Got it.
Anything else, Judy? I just want to point out there was another comment that we captured regarding the opening of some of these centers. And I think, Judy, you said maybe we can clarify that.
Well,
in the order.
It's interesting. I looked at the February 3rd order, and it does specifically say that utilities are allowed to open their offices in accordance with the governor's executive orders. So that was what we said, and it is in the February order.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Judy or Jonas, before we close? Anything else?
Not from me, sir.
Judy, anything else?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Well, look, on behalf of my colleagues on the commission and the entire agency, I want to thank everyone again for participating. This dialogue is far from over, but it's going to take all of us to come up with some solutions to get assistance to these utility customers in need, and work with other stakeholders to see how we can provide the most relief possible without disconnecting, I think is the ultimate goal. But we will present this to the commission and determine if any actions or any amendments to the February 3rd order needs to take place. So with that, I'm going to conclude this workshop. And again, thank you all, and have a great day. And I want to thank Jonas and Judy and Isaac for helping conduct this workshop. I thought it was very successful. So thank all of you. I thank all of you for doing that. All right, that's it, folks. Thank you for participating.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.